What is currently happening, programs? Welcome to the Grid VR, where I'll be bringing you this week's news in virtual reality. It's Sunday, the 16th of December, 2018, and all I can say this week is, let the games begin. We've got Borderlands 2 VR brings the waste, Prey VR begs you to escape the place, the Epic Store brings more than 3 games, high-res headsets, Spice and Wolf, Contractors, and much more. Today, I'm going to cover off the main events to keep you in the loop. So stay locked, enjoy, and welcome to the Grid VR. Borderlands 2 VR is out and about, and it's great. The cel-shaded graphics are a great fit for VR, the controls work well, and it's a badass mega fun time to be in Pandora. The Wasteland Epic is single player only, which is a shame, but it does have full smooth locomotion and turning on both the DualShock 4 and PS Move controllers, though the naming scheme is a little sketchy, with smooth turning being labelled as gradual in the menus, which doesn't even really mean smooth, like literally. This is the full original game, so sadly none of the DLC or DLC characters are included, but they may potentially arrive in the future. There's a bullet time mechanic that slows down time temporarily, all the characters and weapons you would expect, and the quotes that help make the game so notorious. I'm hoping to get a full review up next week, but in the meantime, IGN reviewed the game and gave it a 3.
What?
A 3? Yep. Apparently there is no way to sprint, strafe, jump or spin, and besides short jagged pivots left or right, telescope with an intrusive iris effect. The article has since been taken down, and while this is pretty poor form, I have to wonder, maybe it does deserve a low score if indeed the target market for this game is bringing new people to VR. If then those new people trying this game for the first time can't easily locate, understand, and then work basic menu options because of a confusing naming scheme. Something to think about, devs. Creativity in naming is great, but not if it has a detrimental effect on your target audience experience. Still, it's one thing to get creative with naming, and quite another thing to miss basic menu settings as a professional reviewer and then lowball the game with a scathing commentary. Ooh, 404. Borderlands 2 VR is $50. It's PSVR only for the first 5 months, after which time I'm hoping it comes to PC VR, and despite some HUD elements being a little tough to read at times, all in all, it's an excellent port, and as a Borderlands fan, I rate it. And if you're a fan of this kind of madness too, then I think you should definitely pick this one up. The Prey VR experience from Arcane Studios is now available and is a part of the Typhon Hunter game mode, which comes with the Mooncrash DLC, meaning you will need the full Prey base game in order to play this content. It's a single player escape room mode called TranStar VR, which is set aboard the Talos 1 space station and takes place a few days before the events of the Prey game. You can choose from 3 different rooms to solve with reasonably simple but fun and engaging puzzles, and there's also a TranStar museum that you can walk around in to see various assets from the Prey game up close and in VR. And before you go, fucking escape rooms should be a full game, not these stupid experiences, just keep in mind that while I would prefer a full game, this is a great start. In fact, it's one of the highest quality and highest resolution VR experiences I've had on a Rift, and it performed like an absolute dream, which is crazy given that the flat Typhon Hunter mode is getting slammed for being incomplete and buggy as fuck. No, not quite yet. Also, keep in mind that the full Typhon Hunter online multiplayer mode will be coming to VR early 2019, which not only gives the devs time to work out the bugs for us, it will also make this bundle a much more appealing purchase provided it pans out as good as this one. Do I think it's worth buying the full game and DLC from scratch just to play the VR mode? Nah, not really. Do I think that if you own the base game already, that it's worth it to grab the Mooncrash DLC just to play the VR mode? Yeah. If you want to see what a crisp, well-executed VR experience is like from a AAA studio, then this this is where the buck should start. The Mooncrash DLC, which includes the Typhon Hunter content that has the Prey VR TranStar experience, is on sale now for $10 on the Steam store until the 20th of December for Rift, Vive, and WMR headset owners, and $20 at full price on the PSVR store for PlayStation owners, and all the links you need are in the description below. The Epic Games Store has launched, and the new Steam competitor is bringing to the table a few great things. Firstly, a clean interface with all the usual suspects like store, library, friends, downloads, and settings are there. Then there's Subnautica, a game that has full VR support and needs no introduction, is now free on the Epic Store until December 27th. As in, if you register and download the game before that date, then you get to keep it permanently. Just a call out that when you are installing the game, make sure to tick this box here to opt out of marketing emails. Wait, tick in to opt out? I know that's a little counterintuitive and seems sneaky, and that's because it's a practice called dark patterns, which is not only designed to trick you into thinking you're opting out of spammy emails, when in fact you're opting in, it's also illegal in Europe according to the GDPR. And looking on the Unreal Engine site, which states specifically that all services will be operated in a privacy-friendly, GDPR-compliant manner, yeah, that's got to go. Back to the positive stuff, the Epic Games Store will have another free game every 2 weeks until the end of next year, with the next game being Super Meat Boy, so it's definitely worth downloading and signing up for if you ask me. For developers, Epic have also made available the Online Services SDK, which is the code that lets Fortnite players on PC game with players on Mac, iOS, Android, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, to the full extent each platform allows per title. And for gamers, that's a really good thing, as VR users in particular could play VR supported games on PC, PSVR, or mobile VR, not only with or against each other, but with people playing on a flat mobile phone, for example. Also, Epic share 88% of revenue with game developers from the sale of their games, which, in comparison to Steam, who shares around 65 to 70% of revenue, is better according to my calculations. Not only that, if you develop your game in Unreal Engine, which is designed by Epic Games, you get to keep all the revenue, which is just nice. The store has been in development for a few years now, with contributions from Sergey Galyonkin, who is the guy that runs Steam Spy, and who is now the director of publishing strategy for the Epic Games Store, no less, which, when you think about it, is more than mildly ironic. Keep an eye on the store for future VR deals, and I'll also keep you updated here. And briefly, Contractors is a single and online multiplayer team-based FPS shooter game for the Rift, Vive, and WMR headsets. The game includes a full-body inverse kinematic system, which puts a virtual body in place of your own, a wide range of weapons with really solid, realistic weapon handling, customizable loadouts, a shooting range which doubles as a hub, an offline bot mode, gun stock calibration tool, and it just looks fabulous in game, to be honest. And yep, this really is just another VR FPS shooter, but holy shit, it's a good one. In fact, it's the best one I've played so far. Honestly, if you enjoy VR FPS like Pavlov or Onward, then I highly recommend you try this one out. Contractors is $20 on the Steam store. There's a 15% discount until December 22nd, and I've put a link to that and the Discord server in the description below, so you can meet up there and tee up games with other like-minded casuals. Space Battle VR is a single-player, seated action shooter not too far off Valkyrie, but with a more retro arcade feel. Steer your ship by grabbing the virtual sticks and tilting them in your desired direction while you fire missiles and space lasers at your targets. And while the game doesn't have HOTAS support at this stage, the virtual stick arrangement actually works really well when you have it lined up right, as once you grab the stick, the system only reads controller rotation, like you may have seen in games like VTOL VR. Space Battle VR is $20 on the Steam store now, and has listed support for both Rift and Vive headsets if you want to shoot your way through the cosmos and win the war in this dogfighting blast through the stars. Shadow Legend VR is a single-player action RPG from Vitruvius VR that has been designed from the ground up for VR and puts you in the heavy boots of a Knights Templar Grandmaster as you fight to save your kingdom from destruction at the hands of Lord Aderoth. Set in the medieval realm of Anaria, speak to NPCs using your own voice, you're a cunt, and crusade the land wielding a range of swords, bows, axes, and magic weapons, and feed your mate's horse a stick of dynamite that you painted to look like a carrot. The game will be available for Rift and Vive in early 2019, with the PSVR release soon to follow, and I'll keep you posted here with more as this game develops. Spice and Wolf VR is an ambitious VR project from Spicy Tales, who not only brought us the Japanese light novel series of the same name, but also the futuristic, waifu-friendly, episodic crime anime Project Lux. With over 150,000 USD in backers, the project has currently more than doubled its original Kickstarter goal in the first 24 hours of being live, and that's after hitting triple its Kickstarter goal in the Japanese market. The VR version will be written by the original author of the series, Asuna Hasekura, and support Rift, Vive, and other VR headsets when it launches in 2019. So if you're a fan of light-spirited anime, then stay locked here for updates. In high-res headset land, a Russian startup called Deus have announced a 4K Steam VR headset with some really impressive specs. The Odin VR headset will have two 2160 by 2160 LCD screens, which puts it at double the resolution of a Vive Pro, 110-degree field of view, which is standard on Rift and Vive, and utilize a laser-based tracking system courtesy of the company's own Horus stations, which, might I add, enable a tracking space bigger than Steam VR's own Lighthouse 2.0 tracking system. An Odin pre-dev kit version of the headset will ship in February 2019 with 3 degrees of freedom controllers and cost devs around $1,100, with a consumer version to follow in the summer of 2019 that includes full 6 degrees of freedom controllers. It will use Virtual Link's USB-C cable, which I covered in this episode of the Grid VR, and the consumer version of the Odin headset should theoretically play all Steam VR games straight out of the gate, and more info is set to come when Deus demo the headset at CES 2019, which is in a little over 3 weeks time from now. Elsewhere in Hurl, Oculus and Vario are two companies that are both aiming to bring retina resolution, that is the highest resolution that the human eye can possibly see, VR headsets to consumers sooner rather than later. Both companies have filed patents for headsets that use eye tracking to maneuver or tilt a small, super high-res micro display to aim a retina resolution image at the center of your vision, meaning that no matter where you look, in the center, it's retina resolution. Then a larger and cheaper, lower res screen fills the rest of your field of view with information your eye can't see in detail anyways. This all results in what is essentially a hardware foveated rendering system, which you can see more about in this episode of the Grid VR. Varjo have actually already announced and demoed a working version of their headset, which is set to target enterprise customers in Q1 next year for between $5,000 and $10,000. And with Oculus filing for their patent first, but with Varjo's patent being awarded first, depending on the specific differences in these headsets, this may prove to be quite a wild race. Also, Nvidia are updating their PhysX engine SDK to version 4.0 next week and making it open source for developers. The SDK will bring a handful of scalability and stability improvements and new features like reduced coordinate articulations, which look to help reduce janky physics wobble you get from objects when interacting with them in VR. Virtual reality has had some celebrity attention this week, with Ellen extremely generous, giving every member of her audience 2 Oculus Go's, one for themselves and one to sell to save up for a Quest. An Oculus Go ad featuring a range of stars including Wiz Khalifa, Adam Levine, Jonah Hill, Leslie Jones, and Aquafina has gone over 5 million views on YouTube. Joe Rogan has once again waxed poetic about the HTC Vive and how intense it can be when you stand on a real piece of 2x4 and load up Richie's plank walking sim. And Pewds played Pavlov, and that video almost has as many hits as the last episode of the Grid VR. It's 6,000 views, bitches! I also said some shit about VR too, if anyone cares. And if you want to find out more about that or any of the other topics I've covered today, as always, all the links are in the description. And finally, ZeniMax have at long last settled their lawsuit with Facebook for an undisclosed amount. So that's the end of that steaming pile of shit. And that's this week on The Grid VR. You can help support this channel by grabbing exclusive rewards on Patreon, and if you like this video, then crush that like button, have your say in the comments below, and hit the XO logo to subscribe if you wanna. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!